The arrows, the green arrows on this slide show you a little bit of some of the items that are not in the scope of the current phase of construction. So the bottom middle it points to the part of the roof along the lens, what we call the lens wall, that glass wall that is south facing, where there's skylights that we know need to be resealed and where there's some minor leakage issues. To the bottom right, it points to the facades of the shop buildings that are built into the crescent wall structure. We know that there's some needed repairs both for the facades, and there's also leaking issues on the roof of those buildings, similar to what we've experienced at the main with the triangle building and the waterproofing membrane failing. To the right, you can see the crescent wall, which again is that walkway up from Library Square to be able to access by foot, walking up there to the roof. As we've described to you all, council members, before, we know that that is going to be a significant cost and construction project not in the current scope to be able to open that up to public access for the needed repairs around waterproofing. And then on that top right green arrow, it's pointing out kind of two things. One, the emergency exit stairs on that northwest corner of the crescent wall that are in need of replacement, as well as a safety barrier that's needed to ensure public safety at that point. Next slide, please. And then we'll just, again, show you a couple of these renderings. What's really exciting at this phase of construction is that these renderings are actually very, very similar to what the building actually looks like today. And so we're really excited about finishing this last stage of this phase of the roof to be able to open it up to the public, and so we can add those people to this drawing as well. You can see on this slide, there is the glass wall to the left. That's a really significant improvement to public safety. Next slide, please. This is the view looking southeast towards our beautiful Wasatch Range. And again, based on our research, really the best and only view of its kind that's available to the public downtown, both the city and the mountains. This will be preserved, this view will be preserved thanks to the glass wall that we are putting in. And next slide, please. And then this image also just highlights an important improvement of this construction phase. You can see the ramp that is significantly improved and has a couple breaks to make sure that it's accessible to everybody, the entire public. And next slide, please. And then lastly, what's really important to lift up with this phase of construction is just how dynamic this space will be for many different uses for the library. So you can see here highlighted our bees that we are excited to bring back, which has been a great amenity and a way for the public to really enjoy the roof as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to our CFO, Tyler Barr, to discuss the specifics of the budget amendment we're bringing before you tonight.
Thanks, Noah. Next slide, please. As much as we've worked to stay within the approved budget, unforeseen conditions have been a seemingly continual challenge throughout this project, and it's become necessary to request the additional funding that's before you today. On this slide, you see a summary of the approved funding and the proposed request for $190,000 additional. The original budget at $7.9 million. Last year, our board and the City Council approved an amendment totaling $1.4 million. And then with $190,000 today would result in a total overall project cost that has spanned a number of years of $9.5 million. Next slide, please. Once the contractor notified the library of these additional needs that would exceed the approved budget, we worked with them for more than 4 months to assess the needs and evaluate what was really necessary. We reduced scope for items such as solar panels and the number of furnishings. We've focused on elements that were related to patron safety and their overall patron experience. We vetted very carefully the remaining needs through bids and negotiation with the contractor. And then ultimately arrived at that $190,000, which, as Austin indicated, would be reallocated from savings recognized through benefits costs, where positions we've held open or vacant for a short period of time, or employees that declined coverage. I'll turn it back to Noah.
Oh. So moving forward, as we look to some of these other projects that I made mention of, the library, we do plan to propose funding for the next phases of roof repairs, specifically for the crescent wall, the shops under the staircase, and leaks in the glass over the urban room on the south-facing edge. We are receiving some unplanned revenue for the current fiscal year from new growth and personal property tax that will go towards this phase of renovation. However, we don't want to begin the phase until we give City Council the opportunity to weigh in on our next year's fiscal budget as we think about the total cost of completion for these additional phases. It is a pretty sizable fee based on our work with GSBS to our architecture firm to get really strong quotes on all planned expenses for these future phases of construction. And so it most likely will take a couple of fiscal years for us to complete this project. Next slide, please, and the following slide. Thanks. And then this last image, it gives you another view of the crescent wall as well as the urban room. And I just would want to lift up to you all, City Council members, a couple of lessons learned this phase of the roof construction project as we consider future phases. As I mentioned, we have already worked with our architecture firm to obtain detailed cost estimates up front. And secondly, we've learned from this past project that we really cannot rely on the original design schematics. These proved to be quite inaccurate with the triangle building roof. And secondly, one of the key learnings and challenges of this initial phase of construction had to do with the amount of turnover that the library experienced throughout the phase. Both Tyler, our CFO, myself, the library CEO, and our director of facilities, and we feel very confident that that kind of turnover will not exist for us to be able to complete future phases of the roof reconstruction. And next slide. With that, we again thank you for the opportunity to present this budget request to you all, and welcome any questions that you have for Tyler and I.
Councilmember Young.
Thank you. So one piece, I love this, and I want to make sure that we are looking at the one-time reduction related to the employee benefits piece, not an ongoing potential revenue source in the future. I know that benefits are one of those where they can kind of make or break our ability to get talent. And I just want to make sure that we have the appropriate funding in a long-term way so that if we do have employees who are coming in, that this isn't a long-term solution. It's a timely one-time solution. Does that sound accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The savings recognized are year-to-date savings. They have already been recognized and won't plan on that moving forward.
Perfect. And then do we have a date?
Councilmember Young, we are really eager to be able to publicly announce that date. It has been pushed back a little bit just because of we're working with the manufacturer of a bracket for those glass panels that are so important for public safety. And they've been holding us up a little bit. Our initial plan, I think, was earlier this spring, and we're looking towards May of this spring. So
Great, good to know. My last piece is related. I spend a lot of time at the library, and one of the things that I did not realize about the library until recently was that you guys have incredible passport services on level 3. And as somebody who had previously made attempts at the passport offices through, some of the other entities that offer it, I had the most pleasant experience there. It was incredible, and I'm just giving it a shout out to the 8 people who are watching, that if they need passports, I am telling you, level 3 of the Salt Lake City Library.
Thank you, council member. It's a great public amenity. It's the hours are very, very accessible to working adults, and it was really thanks to some really forward-thinking library staff. That's who we have to thank for that great amenity. So thank you for the affirmation and the plug.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
See you. Okay, we are now at item 11, which is waste and recycling weekly residential collection route changes. And we've got Debbie Lyons from Sustainability, and then do we have Chris Bell too? Okay, great. Michelle's.
Yes, thank you. Ben, were you going to lead with anything? Okay, it's all us. Thanks. We do just have a brief deck to go through with you. We're really excited about this, and we want to be sure we save the precious time for any questions and comments. So we'll run through this quick. Next slide, please. So really what we're doing here, and hopefully you all as residents received your mailer yesterday, which went out a day ahead of schedule. Pleased to, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for the plug there too. Thank you. Really what we're doing here is we are building efficiency and resilience through this that really improves not only our customer service, but the well-being of our workforce too. It's really a twofold win-win for residents and our team. So as the mailer states, and I'll show you a more graphic depiction of what the inside of that looks like on the next slide, but come Monday, February 3rd, we are changing our collection days, and simply that, just collection days. We're not modifying any routes or reducing any service, et cetera, in any way. Simply a swapping of 4 of the 5 days of the week. So as the slide indicates, very simple, Monday's routes and collection day will switch to Tuesday. Tuesday will swap with Monday. Wednesdays and Fridays swap. Thursdays remain unchanged. So really, and the timing of this is strategic. As I'll get to in a later slide, our seasonal yard waste and compost service suspension starts Monday, January 20th, and runs tentatively through Monday, or resumes Monday, March 3rd. So we have an entire extra crew available throughout February to assess any missed pickups, folks that can't wait for their pickup day if it bridges too long for them, and that crew will be able to readily go back and pick folks up that need be. So we really aren't. It's a good time of year to do this. And the other piece to that too is February is our seasonal low generation point for garbage, yard waste, and recycling anyway. So the workload is slightly reduced. And then who does this not affect? Anyone that we don't service. So apartment buildings, multifamily complexes, small businesses that have service through a private hauler, whether it's carts or dumpsters. It also does not change our call to haul service scheduling or availability whatsoever. And then as far as the optional glass recycling service that some residents subscribe to curbside, Those residents should have been notified today by Momentum Recycling, our service provider, that their days are changing. Specifically on that, there are about probably 1,000 customers of the approximate 6,000 curbside subscribers that will swap either from a Friday to a Monday or a Monday to a Friday. And again, they should have been notified directly by Momentum today or tomorrow. Next slide. Forgive my voice too. Not sick, just sound like it. So again, this is the inside of the English page of the English-Spanish bilingual mailer that went out. And so graphically, what is now our Tuesday route in blue will be our new Monday. And so we will go, instead of as we currently do clockwise around the city, we're going to go counterclockwise. The QR code there does point to a website that went live yesterday with an interactive map, so folks can check addresses and confirm whether their day is changing or not. Next slide. And as I said, really, this is about efficient resource alignment. Our workload is for decades, and fun fact, these days haven't changed since we went automated with our collection trucks in the late 80s. So it's high time. But our workload really is heaviest at the very beginning of the week on Monday, and then again on Friday, which is less than ideal operationally from a resource perspective, whether it's people or equipment. So what we're really doing there, and to graphically depict just the tonnage, but not only is it sheer tonnage of material that we're picking up, it's the nature of the geography, whether it's the avenues currently on Monday, or heavier loads that we pick up on what is currently Friday. We're moving those by shifting these around. We're moving those heaviest days to the middle of the week when our resources are at their peak. So really, it's an alignment of resources and work. It really just it allows us to better adapt to any disruptions that we might face from weather, holidays, other events that may come up, or disasters that come up throughout the week. So really, it's about service continuity and putting us in a better position to continue to do that. Next slide. On the outreach and engagement side, this is our launch week. As I mentioned, the website went live yesterday. The mailer has been received. We've distributed talking points to all of our customer service folks in our department, in other departments today, to help them answer and address questions in a cohesive way. Our social media campaign begins tomorrow. And then again, as I mentioned, and then we do have a press release slated to tentatively drop on Thursday. The yard waste suspension, again, starting Monday, January 20th, that puts our crews in a good position to be really, really responsive to any missed pickups, et cetera. I did fail to mention this. We do have a companion tag that will be affixed to all residents' garbage containers starting this Thursday or Friday and throughout January. So folks will receive this information directly on their can as well.
Will you repeat that again? You're going to be tagging some of the containers?
Yes, we will have a bilingual English-Spanish two-sided card directly affixed to every garbage container starting this Friday.
I was going to ask you about that. So great, I love it.
Handled. Yeah, the other thing I would just mention quick is I'm meeting with the Salt Lake Community Network on January 16th to get the message out to heads of community councils and make ourselves available to go meet with them or answer any questions directly as well. So with that, any questions? Thanks.
Councilor Berkeley.
Thank you for answering a question that I had and that I didn't tell you. So thank you for doing all that work. That's great. When I read that the little flyer, I think I read that if people misplaced the container on the wrong day, based on, you guys are going to do efforts to go pick him up. My question to you will be, and I appreciate that, but at the same time, I'm also like, I felt like we're doing everything in our due diligence to communicate for a while with all the neighbors. What is the cost of running a whole truck across the city to pick up a couple random garbage cans, and wouldn't that be better spent ahead on additional communication instead of and people can wait another week for the garbage to be picked up? So I don't know if there is any estimates of like how much money you set aside for those additional pickups. If a third of the city, a tenth of the city call you out and said my garbage is out, are you going to send that many trucks across the city to go pick them up? Or, that's what I'm wondering how you're going to manage that.
Yeah, good question. So invariably, as much as we may choose to spend up front with communication, folks are going to be confused or miss or just forget or not, just physically not be able to wait for their next pickup day. So any amount of trucks that we send out to address those will be routed really efficiently. So the incremental cost for that will be really insignificant. Yeah.
Oh, there, now it's on. One of the great things is with this change, our Friday route will actually be on the southeast corner. And so that was purposeful so that any missed pickups, even ongoing after this changeover, we can sweep the city efficiently as they drive back to the yard on the west side. So that's part of the efficiency measure.
Thank you. Yep, that is part of the design.
Petro?
I literally pulled up the Rose Park community page while you were talking, and we have 45 comments, and none of them are complaining, and everyone is saying thank you. I think your outreach is going so well, and I think during COVID, the fixing things to the garbage cans was the single most effective way to make sure things got directly to people. So thank you. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, and we began receiving calls immediately yesterday, and mostly positive, and if not positive, simply just inquiring and interested and supportive. So thank you.
I'm personally happy not to have to put it on Friday, because I hate putting it on Friday. I'm filling up the next day with all my yard waste.
I'll still forget on Wednesday, but.
Okay, any others? All right, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Next, we have advice and consent of the Chief Human Resources Officer, David Buchanan. Hello. This is your time to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you think that you can bring to this position, and any questions that any council members have in order to confirm you as the new department director.
Great. Well, I'll give you a little background. Prior to joining the city, I worked in the private sector, primarily in the wireless technology space. I worked with a company that started here in Utah. They probably had 40 some odd stores. We eventually were purchased by GameStop, and we grew those 40 stores to 1,500 with over 7,500 employees. I was responsible for the HR function of that, what became known as the technology division of GameStop. During that time frame, had responsibility to work with benefits, compensation, recruitment, learning and development, employee relations, really all aspects of HR. I was the liaison between our division and the GameStop executive team. And I think during that time frame, it really gave me an opportunity to learn a lot of different aspects of HR. I joined the city in late 2019, just I think 5 months before we went into COVID hibernation. But over those years, I've had an opportunity to work with great people there in the HR department. Prior to this opportunity, I was the deputy director for a year or so, and then when Deb announced her retirement, thought through this process and had the chance to go through the interviews with different people here, and just I'm really excited to take this opportunity and hopefully merge that experience and knowledge into something that can help the city.
Okay.
Well, I, for one, am super excited for you, David. And can I just say, with HR, it's something that's overlooked, but it's such an essential pillar to the city operations, especially as we have an evolving workforce, a younger workforce, and a workforce that's trying to find sustainable means and, quite frankly, be equipped with proper payment to live sustainably in the city, to be a part of it and to invest in it. So I'm very excited. I hope to see more implementation of SaaS technologies in our human resources as well as we develop other operations. So I myself see this as a necessary means to evolve our city operations, something we don't think about often, but how we deploy and empower our employees is going to be critical as we evolve into a smart city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Wow. Okay, you're off the hook.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was
That's a late Christmas present. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Congratulations, too.
Thank you.
Yes. So you'll be confirmed at the formal meeting. We'll place you on our consent agenda or on our new business agenda. You need not be present to win, but you're welcome to come anytime. So thanks so much. Okay. Yes. Okay. Another advice and consent for the Director of Community and Neighborhoods Department, Tammy Hunsaker. Hi. Well, you're welcome to tell us about yourself. But, you know, maybe you speak to the two viewers. No.
Okay, am I on now? Hi, everyone. Good evening. Tammy Hunsaker. A little bit about my background. I'm educated in city planning. I'm certified through the American Institute of Certified Planners. I have worked for the city for 12 years, first in the housing division, working on housing policy and federal grants. And then I moved over to the RDA because I wanted to learn more about real estate development and finance. And I worked for the RDA for 6 years, doing project management and then ending as the deputy director. And then 3 years ago, I moved over to the Department of Community and Neighborhoods as the deputy director and was fortunate enough to work as part of Blake Thomas's leadership team. And I'm really proud of the accomplishments that we've done over the past 3 years. CAN staff work tirelessly every day for mobility and affordability to ensure that there's safe and efficient building going on in the city, to encourage best practices in land use. And we even do things like provide accessible youth programming for the city's kids. So I'm really proud of the diversity in our department and everything that we've accomplished over the past few years. And I'm excited to continue that work. And I'm honored that the mayor is entrusting me in this position. And I thank the council for their consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Louis, go ahead.
No, I don't think of anybody better for the job. So excited for the city and for you, and to see and continue to see your leadership now as a director. So I feel like we're very lucky to have you. So
Thank you.
I think you're probably the city employee I've known the longest, or at least remembered. I think even way back in redevelopment advisory committee days, your presentation was always so clear and understandable, and I could tell that you were being earnest and honest and just really trying to make the best for the city. And So I have watching you blossom in your career and being able to work with you as a council member now. And I just agree with Councilmember. I cannot think of anyone better for the job. And so I'm really proud of you and just happy that you're here.
Pietro.
Okay, literally the only thing I could be concerned about is that like you would end up doing more paperwork than sharing your insight and expertise. So I'm just gonna pray that whoever comes alongside you is gonna do all the grunt work, because your insights have literally shaped me as a council person and changed how I approach this job. And the city is very, very fortunate that you're not only willing to do this job, but that we're gonna get the chance to see you, so.
Thank
And thanks to Blake for paving a good path, but I'm excited to see what you do on it next.
Thanks.
I feel like I've known you since my first days coming and working in the city. First times on the council, I'll say. And I've always been impressed with all of the work that you've done and all of the roles that you listed. And I think that they will make you uniquely qualified for this new challenge and new role. And we're just really excited to have you. And I am really excited to have you and really support you in this position. And if there's anything else that we can do to support you and your department, let us know.
Thank you.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know how the confirmations work. So, all right. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. It's on new business. Yeah. We have a board appointment. Do we have Nancy here? Nope, we're early. We're
I believe
early.
Nancy was planning to attend online and is not yet on.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. What? Because we skipped something. Oh, whoops. So yeah, we've got 7 minutes.
Challenge accepted, Mark. Come on, Mark.
Okay.
You can also come back to it after you're right. While he's getting there, I just want you all to know that for the MLB board, we had to do our OPMA training, and they did it like a Jeopardy game, and it was me and Senator Sandel, and Salt Lake City kicked butt because our OPMA training is always the best.
Right. Okay, let's do it.
Grammar portion first or the
It's just the written, so.
Okay.
Which one's faster, you think?
Faster would be the grandma presentation. I bet.
Let's do grammar. Let's do grammar first.
Is your mic on?
There we are. So I'm Keith Reynolds. I'm the Deputy City Recorder. The grammar portion is mostly just the written version, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of them. It's a brief overview, I guess.
Yeah.
We stayed pretty steady with grammar requests last year, a little over 15,000. That's about how many we have every year. Yes, so we have a lot. The statistics are in there towards the end. We had 26 appeals, which is about standard for us too.
It's mostly police ones, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, that was fast.
That was fast.
Does anybody have any questions about grammar? What applies, what doesn't apply? Okay.
Okay, I will do my best, but I don't want to gloss over anything important. And if you feel like you want to interrupt my training to accommodate the board appointment, I'm more than happy to cede my time.
Oh, well, I mean, it's going to start in 5 minutes, so rather than have you try to do it in 5 and interrupt you, Oh, excellent.
Oh.
She's early. Excellent. Thanks so much. You can come back in 5. Or back to you in 5. You can stay right there. Nancy's online.
So Nancy, if you want to unmute or turn on your camera.
Yes, sorry, somebody was just calling me about getting on as well.
Oh, good. We suddenly were early after being late for a long time. So we're just glad that you're here. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on this commission. And then we'll turn it over to council members to see if anybody has any questions.
Absolutely. So my name is Nancy Strahan. I am a sibling first, so I have been in disability my whole life. My younger brother has autism and is nonverbal, and my older brother had complex medical needs. So I've been in disability work since I was 18, worked through being a direct support provider, worked through group home stuff, and then moved into nonprofit work, and I was director of a parent center in Alaska. I'm from Alaska, recent transplant about a year and a half ago, and then came down here. And when I originally applied to be on this commission, I was with the IDRPP, the Institute for Disability Research Policy and Practice, as the associate director of the Research and Training Division. I've since moved to, I'm the executive director of the Utah Association of Community Associates, so Community Services, known as UACS commonly, and it's a disability provider association statewide within Utah. So I have done quite a array of service work with disability, just a bit of everything. However, I've always worked within disability since I could. I'm interested in this commission because I'd like to plug in more to the community in which I now live and work. And this seems like a great opportunity to serve. And it didn't seem like those within my circle or work group that I've been working with for the past year and a half have had duplications in this group. So I don't see the point in spreading myself too thin. And this was an area I felt like I could plug in and be of service.
All right. Thank you so much. That's great information, great background. Any questions? What part of Alaska did you live in?
Wasilla, Palmer. So geographically, it's very similar to the Salt Lake Valley as far as like surrounded by mountains. You always know you're north, east, south, and west, but a little bit more water.
Yes, quite a bit. Well, my dad was born in Anchorage, and my family lived in Alaska for a long time. So, anyways,
Oh yeah, very nearby.
No, not me. I've never even been there. I wish. Yeah, no, please. That's right. How could you forget? Okay, well, thank you so much for your interest in this position and your willingness to serve Salt Lake City. We really appreciate all of the work that people put in, residents put in on volunteer boards. So thank you so much in advance. We will put your name on the consent agenda at our formal meeting, which starts at 7 o'clock. You are welcome to join us for that, but you do not need to be present. We just appreciate your service and thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Back to you, Mark.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thanks. So cognizant of the time, I'll do my best to get through the information as quickly as possible, but I also don't want to skip over anything if you guys have any questions.
It doesn't have to be 7 minutes anymore. So, yeah.
I'm good. All right. We'll still be cognizant of the time. Thank you. Before I begin, I just want to give a thanks to Keith and the Recorder's Office, Cindy Lou's team, for the volume of how they handle such a huge volume of grammar requests and the associated work related to it. I know our office sees a lot with respect to consultation, appeals, and even taking matters before the State Records Committee, or we even have one matter that's now been appealed to district court. So that is a lot of work, and you guys do a great job. Thank you. The Open and Public Meetings Act, OPMA, you'll hear me call it. And I know that most of you have sat through this before, so hopefully it's just a refresher. But why do we do it? Well, number one, by state law, we're required to do a training every year. And why do we have OPMA? Well, the state legislature states in their statute, the reason why is that cities exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business, and it is the intent that cities take their actions and conduct deliberations openly. So it's all about transparency. And I know that that's a value that we have here in the city and that you all value as well. The goal of today's training is to advise on what OPMA applies to, when does it apply, and if it applies, what are the requirements of the law. So you'll see a training. It won't be as fun as last year's cat gifts that Allison presented. I'm sorry about that. I couldn't come up with anything more creative than that. Next slide. And the next one after that, sorry. So, generally speaking, when you think of OPMA, meetings of a public body are open to the public unless an exception allows for that meeting to be closed. Next slide. Meetings of a public body. So what's a public body? We could go through the definition, but for purposes here, the City Council and the RDA Board are public bodies under statute. Next slide. There was a bit of a statutory change this past year that talked about what constitutes a meeting of a public body. So you'll see on the right side, the statutory definition requirements are that it must be a gathering of a quorum of the public body, that it is properly convened by someone with authority to call the meeting, and the meeting must be for the express purpose of acting as a public body to 1, receive comments, or 2, deliberate about a relevant matter, or 3, take action on a relevant matter. Next slide. So which gatherings are subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act? On the left, you can see the ones that are electronic meetings, retreats, workshops, field trips. On the right, these are not chance meetings or gatherings, social gatherings, or when you don't have a quorum. I think our advice on situations where there might be a chance meeting where there is a quorum of you, like at a holiday party, our advice would still be that you should avoid discussion or deliberation on those topics where you might have to take action. Next slide. Transparency to the public. Next slide. So the next slides are about notice. What kind of notice is required? Every meeting must have a public notice, no less than 24 hours notice, and that notice must include an agenda, a date, a time, and a place. Next slide. We must also have public notice of our annual meeting schedule. That allows people to sort of plan on when they want to attend your meetings. And again, those things must have date, time, and a place. And if you have a revision to that regular scheduled meeting, then you must post that as well. A one-off or an emergency meeting doesn't mean you have to change your annual scheduled meetings publication. But if you're deciding to add a regular third meeting or whatever, second meeting in a week or something like that. Next slide. Emergency meetings. You can't hold them unless you attempt to notify all members of the body, and a majority of members must approve a holding of the emergency meeting. As far as notice goes, you often won't have 24-hour notice in these kinds of situations, so you have to do the best notice practicable of the time, place, and the topics to be discussed in the emergency meeting. Final action can be taken at an emergency meeting if the topic is listed on the agenda. Next slide. What does that public notice look like? It's under Utah statute called a Class A notice. That means it must be posted on the Utah Public Notice website, post on the RDA board website as well as the council website if it's a council meeting, and also post at a public location within the city that is reasonably likely to be seen by residents of the city. Next slide. Electronic meetings, next slide. So there are 2 types of electronic meetings. One's with an anchor location and one's without. If you have an electronic meeting with an anchor location, it's a place where the public can join an electronic meeting. But if you want one without an anchor location, you can only do it if you find that there is a health and safety risk to meet in person. And if all members of the public body are attending electronically, and a member of the public does not request an anchor location 12 hours before the meeting. So those are two different ways you can have an electronic meeting without an anchor location. Next slide. The records of meetings. We'll talk about closed meetings in a minute, but I'll just sort of go through what is required. On the left, you see the records that are required for an open meeting. You must have a recording of the meeting. You must have written minutes, and you can see the list of items that are required in the written minutes: date, time, place, members that are present and absent, substance of the matters proposed, discussed, or decided, record of each vote, name of the member of the public who provided comments and a summary of those comments, as well as any other information requested. The official record of a meeting are the approved written minutes. And that's Keith and the recorder's office team who will compile those. With respect to records on the closed meeting side, you still must have the recording, and that recording must indicate the date, time, and place, as well as the names of all present and absent, unless disclosure would impair the confidentiality necessary for the original purpose of closing the meeting. Written minutes are optional in a closed meeting, and I'm not sure what our practice is on that. There's an exception to a recording of a closed meeting, and that is if you're discussing the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, or the deployment of security personnel, devices, or system. And the records of closed meetings are considered protected records under GRAMA. Next slide. So we're going to next talk about what reasons constitute closed meetings. So I'm not sure why there's an open sign. Sorry about that. Next slide. Next one. Thanks. Closed meetings. This list is not exhaustive under state code, but they tend to be the ones that at least I've seen in my experience here on why we might close a meeting. I don't want to read all through the list, but you can kind of see some of these things here. If you have any questions about it, let me know. The last one I'll add is advice of legal counsel, and that is one that's not in state code, but it is one that our office has consistently said is a proper reason for closing a meeting. Next slide. The procedures for closing a meeting. You must first start as an open meeting, and then you must have a 2/3 vote to approve closing of the open meeting. And you must publicly announce and enter into minutes the reasons for closing the meeting, the location of the meeting, and a roll call vote by name. Next slide. Public comment and participation. Next slide. So public comment and participation can be either required under state law or city code requirements, or at the discretion of the chair. So where you see them in state law or city code requirements are instances when we have public hearings or when there might be a bond hearing, things like that. The other comments, so like our public comment period, would be at the discretion of the chair. Comments may be discussed during the meeting by the body if not on the agenda, but no final action can be taken if it's not on the agenda. Next slide. Disruption of meetings. The body may remove an individual from the meeting if that person willfully disrupts to the extent that the orderly conduct of the meeting is seriously compromised. Sadly, I know you guys have some experience with that. Next slide. The consequences of violating OPMA. Next slide. So a member can be charged with a Class B misdemeanor if they knowingly violate the closed meeting provisions of OPMA. So if we are closing a meeting and we're intentionally flouting the reasons that would be violation of OPMA, and that may void a final action. Such lawsuit must be convinced within 90 days of the final action or 30 days of the final action concerning issuance of bonds. And new is that litigants can recover attorney fees and costs. I think that's it. Next slide. Yes, that's it. Any questions? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much. All right. We do not have a closed session scheduled. And so yeah, we do have some announcements though, yes. I do too, so. All right, so we are at 15, so report of the chair and vice chair. So I suggested or requested that all of you spend your holiday thinking about division of power and power structures and responsibilities. So hopefully you thought about that a little bit, because we're going to talk about that at the retreat on the 14th. And that's towards the beginning of the day. And then we'll spend the rest of the day talking about council tools and like kind of perspective on resources, things like that. And then we are anticipating a brief closed session. Well, not that brief. We're anticipating a closed session during the retreat for an update on whatever. Right. For one of the reasons that we just learned about. And then we're going to, we've asked the mayor to talk for a little bit. She can only come at like a specific time window, so we've asked her to talk about some of her priorities, and then leave time for us to ask questions. And then the remainder of the time will be each of us discussing each of our priorities. And I know that Councilmember Young can't be there, but we wanted to make sure that you know that you can have Julie present them or anybody else. That's exciting. Yeah, love it. Does anybody have any questions about the retreat or anything like that? Okay.
Just to educate the community, is not that retreat that most people think it is.
No.
There is no spa, there is no massage.
Correct.
It's a long meeting.
It's a long meeting. It's just in a different place. And a place that's actually not even that far away.
Like false advertising, just saying.
Yeah. It's, you know, when I say retreat, I'm using air quotes. So, okay, any other questions about that? Okay.
Maybe I can tag on to that really quick just to make sure everyone knows we're planning for it to go from 11 till 6 p.m. So hopefully everyone's calendars have been blocked out that time. Okay, so the other announcements. The first one is council members have the opportunity to include newsletters in the public utilities mailing. There are 3 months that have been identified that are eligible. Councilmember Young has let us know that she prefers to have a newsletter in August. There's also April, August, and December are the 3 options. So,
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Can I request December?
You can.
It'll be my last month.
That's right.
Are there, so, those are
like a good time to do a newsletter.
What are the rules about the election?
I think there are, I'll have to get back to you about the election. I think that works because the election will have been over by December.
Right, no, I'm asking about like.
Oh, like August. Okay, I'll double check that. We'll have to, yeah. Fine. Okay.
I remember from last time that it was too close, but you know.
I thought it was too.
I will double check.
I know.
Is there additional spots for open for December?
April or December.
So December for me.
Okay.
Well, I think, yeah, let's answer that question first, because if it is, then yeah. I don't know how, I can't express a preference without knowing.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question or any other announcements?
Yep. There's a legislative action on your formal meeting tonight about height restrictions in front and side yards and rear yards. This is largely to accommodate sort of changing practices as it relates to ADUs being installed in people's backyards. So the council can consider voting on that at the formal meeting tonight.
I expect an impassioned speech from those of you who are seeking support.
I have a very strong one too.
Better, because I only agreed that this would be on the agenda. I mean, I don't know if I haven't been persuaded yet. So
we'll persuade you. We'll persuade you.
All right, great.
Okay. And then just a reminder. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Perhaps a visual aid. Oh, excellent. Okay, great.
Just a reminder to submit your financial disclosure to the recorder. Apparently 4 of you already have, so thank you.
Oh gosh.
What is that?
The financial disclosure form is the annual form that you have to fill out.
Oh, conflict of interest form?
Financial disclosure. It's on this, it's attached. Yeah.
Not on mine.
You can have.
No, I think.
Oh, here it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's even a post-it.
Oh, hi.
More instructions.
Okay.
Great, sorry, okay.
Like who is confirming with Amber if it's too close to the election, but like who's recollection is that it might be. So sorry. Yeah. But we'll confirm and maybe get around to the council tonight once we confirm to check and see if other months work. So, okay.
Although, that might have been because we used to have a primary in August.
Yeah.
Which we don't anymore.
Yeah. Well,
Until 26.
we'll double check.
Unless, yes, okay. Okay, any other, all right, let's go eat. We have we only have 29 minutes for dinner, so sorry, everybody.
We actually get a dinner.
Yeah. We're adjourned. We'll reconvene at 7 in our formal meeting. Thanks, everyone.
resolution.
Chair, I would like to make this resolution since it's in my neighborhood. Concerning the proposed resolution 2025-2, I would make a motion that we adopt that resolution.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and second by Councilmember Chaburka to adopt proposed resolution 2025-2, and this is also a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Councilmember Graff.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Ritchie.
Aye, that passes. Thank you.
Chair, if I may?
Yes.
I like the project a lot, and I brought this question up in our work session around this. And I'd just like to state it again. I would like to have us take a look at offsetting some of the cost of infrastructure, $1.3 million coming from CIP in this proposal. Rather than that, incorporate that cost of improvement, water, sewer, gas, street, curb, gutter, at some level into the cost of the homes. I think that the homes should carry the cost rather than the tax being public as a whole, and I'd like to see us kind of open that door and start to study that a little bit.
Respond well to that, Jeremy.
So it's interesting because one of the things that it's been really challenging for housing in general now, especially about single-family homes, is the price, right? The price is so high right now. Even these homes will be higher than anybody would ever dream they would be, just because of how much it costs to build a house. The benefit of those high prices, though, is that we can start to incorporate some of those costs, and that if there's enough efficiencies in the actual construction of the home, we should be able to recoup those costs upon sale of the home. So we're not just subsidizing an entire project, but you can actually get money back and recoup some of those costs. That always hasn't been the case, right? Some of these projects that we've done, you've never been able to get a price high enough to be able to do that. But that is one of the silver linings of a crazy housing market right now.
Yeah, and I appreciate that very much, Jeremy. The 1.3 over 29 lots is $86,000 per.
Yeah.
And I understand there's some sensitivity there, but at the same time, we've got a tight budget and a lot of things on our wish list.
Yeah, and it's understood. I'll give you a little perspective. If you were to go buy, so if you wrap the acquisition costs in with the improvement costs, right, you're looking at around $83,000 to $85,000 per lot to do that. If you're to buy a similar lot pretty much anywhere else in Weber County right now, you're pressing over close to $200,000 a lot, right? It's just it's a crazy time to be trying to build new, especially single-family homes. This is why you're not seeing many of this type of home. The ones you're seeing are usually gigantic and really expensive, or they're trying to take care of it with multifamily. So,
yep. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Our final item from reports from administration is proposed campaign finance ordinance amendments. And we have Tracy Hansen here to address us on this one. Welcome, Tracy.
Good evening. I'm here with you tonight to discuss the proposed ordinance to amend the campaign finance section of the city code. And since the Recorder's Office has a mission to safeguard the history of the city by managing and preserving official records, I wanted to share, of course, a couple records with you. The first one I know you can't read, but this is it's the primary election canvass from 1931, where the gentleman on the screen, Moroni Skeen, ran for office. He ran for council, or the commissioners. They were commissioners at the time, a 4-year term. He was one of 16 candidates, and he was eliminated, unfortunately, in the primary. But we have his expense report. which I thought was fun. It's from 1931, and it shows that he spent $4.50 on candidate cards. So I was interested in what candidate cards were, and that's a sample. This is not from Utah. I could not find any historical pictures of Utah candidate cards, but it appears that they would have cards printed out to hand out to people, maybe similar to flyers, that type of thing. So I thought it would be fun since we're discussing financial reports. 1931 is the earliest set of reports we've found so far while we're reviewing documents. But since then, a little bit has changed. In 2009, the City Council adopted a comprehensive campaign finance ordinance, and since their time, there have been numerous changes to state code related to campaign finance, and it's resulted in what I feel is a really confusing system of rules.
Yeah.
And, so our purpose in this proposal this evening is to simplify the system, repealing Ogden's separate code and creating a new ordinance that aligns with state code with a few exceptions. The proposed changes, we discussed this in a council work session, and nothing has changed since that visit. So the contributions would, Ogden right now prohibits
What's that,
anonymous
sweetheart?
contributions. The state allows anonymous contribution, $50 per calendar year.
Uh-huh.
So we're amending that going forward.
What?
The contribution limits per person per election cycle. The mayor is $5,000, which it currently is. Council members $1,500. We are recommending that not change, that it stays the same. Penalties for violating provisions of the chapter, that's included. However, we have included wording to allow a little bit of room for correction. If an error is made or if something happens and call a candidate and say, you can't stay there technically still
Yes.
violation. So we want to give opportunity
You guys
for
need to
candidates to
give
correct
me, you
any
need to
issues that
give
may
me
occur.
these for my birthday.
Okay.
Daddy, I want to ask you something.
Yes, sweetheart.
There's an advertisement disclosure.
You need
Currently
to
in state
get
code,
this,
but
you
it's
need
felt
to
that it
get
applies only
this
to state
and
candidates, so
this.
we would like
Uh-huh.
to
You
make
need,
sure that
mommy,
it's
and you
also
need to
in our
get
code, which would
this
require
and this
if
and
candidates
this.
do fill their
Okay.
I want
Nice.
to push it around so I can do my success.
that you approve of that.
I need
Okay.
to do a success. I'm just gonna be my dog. Can
No
move.
contributions or
Can you-
expenses
Now I
can be
use
made
this,
without
and I will
establishing
put this
personal
back up
campaign committee in Ogden City.
tomorrow.
And this
Uh-huh.
would
But I will
eliminate
keep
the need
this
for a
up
candidate to do that.
upstairs. So when my
Which
birthday is
then, if we get to
over, I
reporting
will
dates, and I
bring
know
it
again this is small,
downstairs
usually I'm
and we
over
need
there,
to
not
turn the
here.
lights
So
on.
I have
Uh-huh.
to vary the size, and I apologize. Bringing
What is gonna
dates and
happen
state dates
when
and
It's a
when
fishing
my
spot. Come
party
here.
is over?
When your party's
feel it's
over.
very
Oh, I
It's
don't
not,
know.
it's not gonna come over when my party's over.
For what? You want to have a sleepover? with her?
eliminate
Yeah.
Ogden
We can't
specific
do
dates
that.
and go with the
Why?
state
You're
code.
too young.
Which would then
not.
eliminate
Uh-huh.
the need for a candidate
Mommy, can I see
Hey,
this?
I have a question.
contribution over
Is Nelly your best friend?
$750
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
file a
You
state
love
code
Nelly.
reporter within 24
Yeah.
hours.
But you just
registering
now
7
you
days
be
before the
mean
election.
to me.
But she's
The
mean
dates
to
still
you.
would need to be
Up
reported.
and down home
It
my
just wouldn't be a
That's because
separate
she loves you
report
too.
that would
Why
have to
this
be
is how
included
you talk?
the 7 days before the election. We've only had that happen
This is what you're talking
since
to.
I've been here in the
Why?
last
Oh,
election.
I think that might be.
Nobody's ever had to do that before, so it's not used often, but it would have to be included on the reports. So I can try and answer any questions if you have any. If not, I would request approval of the proposed ordinance.
Any questions or discussion on the council?
What do you do if, just curious, what do you do if there is a contribution of $750 or more? I mean, now.
A candidate would fill out a specific report that states what that donation is, and we would put it on the website.
Just post it to the website.
Which the candidate would still need to include it in their next report. It just kind of calls attention to it during those 7 days. I think it came from a time when there wasn't the internet. You couldn't access reports or information. We didn't get our ballots 21 days in advance, and so people could accept contributions right before the election without people knowing. I think that's where it came into play. Like I said, we haven't had it used except for this last election.
Or it wasn't reported.
Yeah, there would be no way we'd know.
All right. If there's not any other discussion, do we want to have a motion on this item?
Chair, I'll make that motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2025-1.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Blair to adopt proposed ordinance 2025-1. And this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Graff.
Yes.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers. Aye. Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Ritchie.
Aye. All right, and that passes. Okay.
Chair, can I just make a quick comment?
Yes.
I just want to say how much I appreciate everybody agreeing not to increase the campaign contribution limits. I felt like they're appropriate for what our city needs. So thanks for everybody supporting that.
And I wanted to acknowledge Tracy's enthusiasm for her job and digging through the archives and bringing us some really interesting old stuff. And it brings a smile to my face when she shares some of that old stuff. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. All right. Okay, thank you very much. We are at the public comment portion of our meeting. I just wanted to just briefly mention on the, there's been a lot of discussion about the Weber housing facility and at the Aspen facility, the discussions there. We had a very good work session where that was discussed. If you haven't had a chance to review that, I recommend you check that out. But just maybe in summary, and my fellow council members, and maybe the mayor can help me if I misstate something here. Overwhelmingly, we feel good about the project in itself and the success rate of that. Primarily, the concern on the council has been the location. And so we asked, along with the administration, an opportunity to maybe reconsider that location and work together with Weber County and the Weber Housing Authority to do that. We still have it currently on our agenda for next week. That may or may not change based on some of the discussions that come about this next coming week. Did I miss anything, or is that relatively close to kind of what we talked about? But yeah, our hope is that we can maybe find a solution that might alleviate some of the concerns that we've heard. We do feel like the city does quite a bit. And in fact, tomorrow there's a program with the Ogden Housing Authority to discuss the work that we're doing in that space as well. So anyway, just if you're here to address us on that, we certainly welcome your public comment. We just wanted to let you know where we are and what's been discussed so far in that. So at this time, if you'd like to address the council, you're welcome to step up to the microphone here or raise your hand online. And we ask that you state your name for the record and then limit your comments to 3 minutes. We do have a hand online, so let's go ahead and go to that first. Welcome.
Hi, Heath. Hey, Heath Sato, Ogden resident. I wanted to be there in person tonight, but unfortunately I have a mild cold and don't want to get any of you guys sick. Talking about the work session, I recently re-listened to the work session from July 12th, 2022, when our OPD homeless service advocate, Anna Davison, shared stories about people experiencing homelessness in Ogden with you guys. One of the heartbreaking examples was a woman who died by suicide in the park here while waiting for housing. And I just want to remind you, we're making people wait right now. Some council members in that meeting said, where are these people coming from? They had heard rumors circulating that they were being shipped in from other cities. Anna said the majority is definitely our own community members. Former police chief Eric Young was there and agreed. He said it would be misguided to say a large percentage are coming here just because they've heard of Ogden. So I just wanted to kind of put that to rest. Former council member and now Mayor Ben Nadolski said at the time, we need to personalize, not politicize. I couldn't agree more. Councilmember Heyer also noted the cost of repairing parks damaged by encampments, adding it would be nice to shift the money into direct care rather than just mitigate the mess. And this project does exactly that at no cost to the city. It saves lives, saves taxpayer money, and makes our city safer. It might sound hyperbolic, but if your neighbor was dying on your street, would you help or would you wait and see if there might be someone better to help? That feels like the choice we're facing right now. The mayor spoke up at the end of the work session today and passionately described what was at stake here. He mentioned progress being held up at the airport and blocks of development. What I also see at stake here is human lives. Mayor Nadolski, please believe me when I say this with respect and as a friend, I'm disappointed. The county has been working on this for years. And yes, the prior administration was a mess. I've been communicating that to you all for years. But the city council has had the power to stand up and act for all these years, but waited until now when options are running out. And now it's urgent. These people are still, looking for a better solution than what they've got. Where they're at now is not going to work for a lot of them. I'll task you with this. Find the perfect site for them ASAP, well before June, or let this project move forward. Human lives are on the line. There are neighbors, there are community, and I'm not exaggerating when I say those lives are in your hands. Thank you for your time.
Laura Lewis. I just want to say I appreciate you guys looking at this from both sides, which is what I think you're doing, is that there's been a lot of focus on potential residents and the impact on their lives, but you also have to look at the impact on neighborhoods and as far as what the city's planning. And I think you guys are doing a good job at that, trying to make a fair decision for both.
All right, Travis Pate. It's not a commercial representation. It's just a smile to make sure everybody recognizes. It is a commercial representation, however, still, but commercial logo. So the dynamic for me is I appreciate everything that was said in the work session. I'm glad that a work session was chose to have with regards to the Aspen Care Center. I think to me, the overall need and the share, as I said, I just replay my public comments from December. That's the kindness that comes out, particularly as we look at the teenage aspect of that and the Christmas tree jubilee, and that every high school in Weber County has a teen center to address homelessness. And just because some of the individuals might be age challenged now, they don't qualify for the teen centers, those types of things, doesn't mean that they're relegated to the back row. And I appreciate the compassion. It's not there that is there with regards to the compassion. It's an overall holistic community dynamic. It's not just one that we as a city have to solve. It's not just one that the county has to solve. It's obviously a nationwide dynamic. But I think the aspect to me was it's just a sole concentration might be harmful, especially when they said, oh, individuals can come in, and yet it already said in the proposal, no guests whatsoever. But I want to go and sing or play the harmonica or something. Oh, I'm there, but now am I not just a guest? There's just too many things that are promised. A 1 to 8 ratio, and yet 25 people are there, but they don't have 3 overnight staff members. There's a lot of things that are still up in the air about it. And so I think there's still some fine tuning about the project itself, but again, the site I think is critical. It's not meritable for the dynamic that's proposed. If they want to share it and have equal uses, like I said, I'm probably one of the few people that has been there, and so to speak, lived there for multiple weeks, as my mom was too ill to be at the hospital, but too well to be at the hospital, but too ill to be at home. That was our space, and it was a solemn space. And I think the same thing that the caller tried to attempt to mention is that it's the compassion. So if we're going to visit our friends and family, let's get there. Let's visit the space. Let's visit the other spaces that are possibly proposed. So thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council.
Thank you, Travis. Okay, any other comments? Welcome. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Adrian Zubler, Ogden resident. And I don't know if y'all have addressed this in the past. I know I have over the last 10 years. With our homeless issue, it would seem like to me that maybe we would be looking at some of these tiny homes and some of the areas that a homeless person can go in. Something on wheels even is good, that we can move them where we need them and where we want them. One of the things that I think that's happening right now is Salt Lake City is looking at some of these smaller homes, and I don't know what they're calling them, but anyhow, they're smaller homes, and I think that we could do a lot better by using some of these small homes to help the homeless. We could go ahead and get that out on the street instead of making these big old houses and making decisions about the lot sizes and all that. So anyhow, I just wanted to throw that out there, that if we haven't thought about it, that it's something that needs to be looked at. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Adrian. Okay, any other comments? What?
Hi, I'm Kevin Lundell, Ogden City resident, and it was nice to see Jeremy's presentation because I actually live in one of those projects. And it is one of those projects that, and that project that has helped raise the median income of East Central Ogden. And it's projects like those that have made this neighborhood an up and coming neighborhood. We moved there specifically because we love the economic diversity there. I love that I can walk the neighborhood and I can, see different people from all walks of life. And so hearing, I too tuned into the work session today. And what I really wanted to say is that's my neighborhood. And it is Ogden City policies that have made the neighborhood on the rise, and I'm grateful for that. But it's also displaced people in that process. And we have a responsibility to those folks in that process to help house them. And I am here to say that I think our neighborhood can support it. I think our neighborhood will support it, and it wants to support it. And what I really wanted to ask today was that we get an opportunity because the process was a little backwards this time. And I know there was already a public hearing on this where public got to give their input. I wasn't even aware about that at that time, but then there was a work session that happened. We've gained more information during that. So I would really just ask that we get another opportunity next week. I've spent some time speaking with each of you on the council. I had a conversation with Mayor Nadolski about that. You remember that one? Yeah, about this specific plan. And I've spent some time actually trying to get it pushed more into the public. And so I think as they start to hear some of that, they are going to want an opportunity to speak about it and to hopefully say that, yes, our neighborhood can support it, and it should, and that we can, at this time, be compassionate. And we in Ogden can lead. We can show that we're different. I believe that we're different. And I hear that from you. And the problem is I often hear it just not in that location. The problem is with these projects, it's never in that location. It's never in that location. And I think we have an opportunity today to say, yes, I think our neighborhood was going to come out and support. I do know that there will be some opposition, but I think overwhelmingly we will see that if we're allowed to have that opportunity to speak next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi, I'm Candace Burnett. I am a resident advocate at Lowen Peak Nursing and Rehab. I am at the homeless shelter weekly. I'm going to try to do this out crying because I'm very passionate about this. But this is a first step in making a difference. Like, we have so many homeless people out there on the streets that are struggling with mental illness, dementia. Like, I go there, there's dementia residents that don't know how to get a ticket to get a bed. They don't know how to get food. They're walking around with only a jacket. Like, they're freezing out there in the streets. There's tiny little kids families that just have nowhere to go. Like, we're home with a warm house and food to eat. You know, like, it's not fair for us to think, oh, they're fine. Like, we don't need to worry about that. Let's send them somewhere else. Like, I don't know how people can have the hearts to think that that's okay. So I think this program is a great start. I mean, it's not going to help everything, but let's try. Let's try to make this work. Like, I'll do everything in my power to make it work. I know there's a lot of people like this gentleman that just spoke. Like, we got to make a difference. There's got to be something that we can do. I just pray that you guys give us the opportunity to make it work. That's all I got.
Thanks, Candace. Okay. Not seeing any other public comment. Appreciate what's been shared, and just also remind you, certainly there are many opportunities to engage with the council, as was mentioned. You can reach out to us on our phones. You can email us, and I do want to say we have received quite a few emails and phone calls on this item, and others, of course. So we appreciate that. So yeah.
I'd like to make a quick comment too, and we have received quite a few comments, but there's a lot going on in Facebook and social media posts right now, and there's just because people disagree with one side or the other doesn't make it right to go after that individual. So please let people be able to speak, whether they're for or in opposition, for or opposition of. So just be kind and listen to the people out there. So it's getting kind of a nasty on social media posts. So.
Thank you. Okay. Wonderful. Comments from Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to everybody who spoke today. I actually appreciate that Heath, if you're still listening, no offense taken, because I still believe that we need to personalize and not politicize. And that was really the crux of the remarks I made, is we're politicizing decisions that need to be done on behalf of people, and not in a politicized way, but in a collaborative way. That's all we're asking here. And the remark around, I often hear, not in this location, but then it's followed by some sort of critique that we're not willing to support it in any location. I would invite all of those people to show up tomorrow to an open house on 31st Street in Lincoln for a project that Ogden City fully endorsed and participated in and supported and made sure that it came to fruition because it was done in a collaborative way. That's all we're asking. To say Ogden City doesn't do its part is ridiculous. To compare us to a city down south that's not willing to house, some 16, 17 beds on a few nights a week, to compare us to that, give me a break. Talk about a city, again, punching above its weight to do more than its part, more than its fair share. That's us. And to ignore the project that we are celebrating tomorrow doesn't add up. All we're asking for is to do it in the right way, to do it with us at the seat of the table in a way that doesn't violate the policies and principles we've had in place for a long, long time. And I actually see that willingness from everybody I talk to. Everybody at the county, the housing authorities. We've got to get this right. It hasn't been going right. And it puts us in these positions of being against one another. And we have got to be in a position of being for one another, for people, personalizing it. For people, that's what we're here for, to serve. So let's not politicize it, let's personalize it. I agree still, I said it then, I agree still now. And thankfully, as was also mentioned in that meeting tonight, for the first time I'd heard it, is that the people that are slated for this project are housed right now, thankfully. And I understand they're not in a permanent situation, but they're in a stable situation and a safe situation. So that's a relief. But anyway, enough about that project. We had a lot of discussion around that at the work session. I want to address something that's near and dear to my heart, and I'll just tell you that every single one of our employees is near and dear to my heart. And I know the same goes for you guys too. And as the mayor, I'm really accustomed to taking criticism. I don't care. I'm caring less and less each day sometimes. People will, I don't think I've done a single thing in this job that hasn't been confronted with resistance. I mean, I try to walk to my truck, I can't, there's just resistance. Everything, resistance, resistance, resistance. And if you've ever coached kids, you know that you can't ever be perfect. Right, Rashad? Amen, brother. Former teammate. Coach at Ben Lomond, applicant for the current Ben Lomond High School job in which I support. Same goes for if you're supporting kids in recreation. There's a bunch of people over here that work their butts off every single day to do exactly that. And unfortunately, one of them was maligned in a very public way. I just want to say, if anybody wants to malign our people, you can malign me. Bring it. I don't freaking care anymore. But don't malign the people that are giving everything they have for others. We've got employees, including our director of recreation, that is a good man with a good heart. Nope. He's a great man with a great heart who gives everything for the city and for the kids, just like every one of these guys do. As a mayor, am I perfect? Not even close. Are we ever perfect? No way. But is our heart in the perfect place for everything that we do? You're damn right it is. Every one of you. So we got to get, again, using what I said a long time ago, we got to stop politicizing and be more personalized. Focusing on the kids and the service to the kids. That's what I'm challenging them to do. That's what they're challenged themselves to do and each other to do every day. We're only asking for the same from the public. Because when we do the things that we're doing when we fight like this, we create space between each other. Those are the cracks that families and kids are falling through. Like, their comments are right. We're creating the cracks that families are falling through and kids are falling through. And we got to close that gap. That's our job. It's our responsibility. And so I'm sorry that you're seeing a lot of struggle around this one project. It's been years of struggle. And that has got us to where we are. It's just kind of blowing up on this one thing. I get it. And it sucks. But we have to change it. That's got to be the way of the past. Moving forward, it's got to be a completely new way. And you're going to hear all about that on January 29th at our State of the City event. I invite anybody that wants to think about, talk about, and work toward a better future for Ogden to come to our State of the City event on January 29th at 6 p.m. at the Copper Nickel. We're going to review what we've accomplished in the year that I've been here, and we're going to look ahead to the year ahead and the years beyond. And none of that work that we do will happen without people like these guys. And what looks like it might be an anonymous letter to the editor about one of our people is not the way to get things done and to fix things and to make things better. It's to roll up your sleeves and get to work with us, not against us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, the employees that are here. Support that. Any other council member comments? All right. If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Graff to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. We'll see you all next week.
and I'd bring that back to you guys to see if that's what you want to change in the employee handbook.
Awesome, Stephen. Thank you. Yep. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we are done with that item.
So I've got Bill and Jacques so far on that, and then the attorney's office.
That's where we left it off at.
Okay.
Alicia was just Bill and
Perfect.
Jock. If
Okay.
we need
And then-
help, I will recruit somebody else.
And then I believe Brian mentioned another subcommittee earlier in the meeting. I just can't remember what he said he wanted.
I think that it's on here.
Okay.
If we've discussed everything that he mentioned, I believe.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure we didn't miss somebody.
Okay. All right, so we will move on to one that I'm most likely to butcher the name here.
Isn't that
Motivation.
Whoever came up with that?
Okay, we'll go with that. Motivations training contract for dispatch services, and this has Jenny Swenson.
Under agenda review, I even said that's got to be a typo.
No, it's an
I know it's not. No, it's not a typo.
it's an awful name of a company. I reviewed the contract and it made me very disappointed in naming companies. But this is a contract. I don't know if Miss Swinson is here, but essentially it's a contract to provide training and best practices for 911 phone calls, among other needs for the sheriff's department. It's a total of $19,690.55. I don't know if we want.
I'll assume it's within their budget.
It is. I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a motion.
Please.
I move to approve the motivations training contract. I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Hedin, seconded by Commissioner McCandless. Is there any discussion needed on this one? Anybody? No? Call for a vote. All in favor? It's unanimous with Commissioner Martinez absent. Thank you. Okay, we've finished up with number 4, finished up with 5. We are up to number 6, repeal and replace chapter 8.16, special events of Grand County General Ordinances. Mike McCurdy presenting and bringing this forward.
All over the board here. We're going to start with the statement that this is definitely not the last time you're going to see this. This is a working document. I expect more changes. My main points of view and changes into this were appointing a special events. I'm trying to get right to it. Special event coordinator as a county staff member. And in already filling that, I do expect Alicia to be looking at that just because she handles events already. So it falls with that position, but not to be a named person, to be a position. The other large changes, taking the qualifications for low impact and high impact events. The qualifications for a high impact event used to be 250 persons and 50 vehicles. Push that to 500 persons and 100 vehicles. Mainly, in all honesty, it comes from wanting to put on events myself, and honestly wanting to hold a wedding. Per session, my personal wedding per session would have been over 300 people, and I would have had to ask for a special events permit, just the vehicles on sites, and that's obscene. I mean, I'm sorry that I am related to half the town, but
don't apologize.
I don't see that being a fitting thing. The special events in general will still have to go through special events coordinator and all of the governing bodies, like sheriff's department, roads department, falling underneath high impact. I mean, you still have to get the checkoffs of those, but people know people, and I don't want that to become a thing in anyone else's direct life. And I want to make it easier for events to be held in county with less roadblocks. The other large changes was a couple of the timelines. The timeline changes were mainly pointed at not approval or in general approvals on the timelines, or like trying to describe there. Sorry, I'm flipping through this very legalese document as we go.
Sure, I can add some additional context if Commissioner McCurdy would like.
Please.
So going through the edits, Commissioner McCurdy had my office draft the document. A background for commissioners: originally there was a special events committee that was formed. We had, I think, 4 or 5 different members in the beginning, and then little by little we started to shift down to fewer members. Kate Finley really led I think the cleanest charge on the special events process, and really went through and made it streamlined. And I think a lot of the difficulty, and a lot of people don't know this, your low impact and your high impact events have to go through the entire e-approval is what the name of the software is, e-approval system. And so that requires them to go through and get sign-offs from the health department, the sheriff's department, roads, many different departments, and ultimately it results in the special event committee prepping it up, making sure it's good, then hands it over to the clerk auditor's office for the final approval. One of the things for the determination for low impact or high impact, it was almost always just a numbers count. And so you'd have to wait for 5 people to vote whether it was more or less than 250, which at a certain point I delegated my authority to Kate. I think Ben Frederick delegated his authority to Kate. I think everybody just did at a certain point. And so that was one thing. I want everyone just to take a glance. If you look at the definitions section, special events they identify under subsection 1, noise is something that they consider when determining if something's going to be an event or not. I think a lot of people that wrote in misunderstood that the noise ordinance, like other ordinances, is still enforceable. It's like camping and other things. I'd love to see all of our ordinances enforced that are on the books, but that is still something else that requires, they have to comply with that. They have to comply with safety with the roadway. And so that's some of the information. So when we look at the committee, at a certain point, your commission administrator, your economic development director, your OSTA director, and myself, the county attorney, we were basically giving Kate the go-ahead to greenlight this. I think the people that are identified, be it Alicia or Jenny Beth, are more than capable to manage this, and really our portion of it isn't the meat and potatoes, it's the portion from the other entities, like the health department having to sign off on all your food vendors. So that's one reason why, why removing the committee makes sense in a few different ways. There's only been one, I can think of one event, and I talked to Commissioner Hadler about this. There's only ever been one event that was utilized for traffic to kick it up to high impact, was the race for up for air. And that was a disagreement between Mallory, Nassau, and myself. I said it based on the analysis triggered a high impact event and brought it to you guys, and she said it wasn't a high impact event. So even on I think that's one of the few ones that utilizing some of the other subcategories, but that wasn't flagged by roads. So just giving an some additional context to some of the changes that we made, and if there's other questions, I
Sure, I know Trish is first in line, and then follow with Shaw.
What I got from you on the onset as you began to present is like, well, we could change some of this. So here's my recommendation. We push this to a workshop, and we take a couple of hours, all of us, in workshop. That's just my recommendation. I think it would be a lot more effective than us sitting here and bantering. We've had we finally, to me, got a special events system that was working, and it was, finally in the last, year, I feel like it's finally working. But if you don't feel that way, I value that comment. But I think this would be better workshop. That's just my opinion. Because I feel like we keep talking about things like transparency. And again, this being kind of shoved through is not allowing that kind of collaboration and being very, very transparent. Every single letter we've gotten regarding this is in opposition, and we've gotten a lot. So that's just my opinion. I think it would be much more palatable for the general public for shopping.
I was going to give just a little more background. When I first got on, special events was kind of a mess, and I mean, the system that we have now is it's taken a lot of work and it's evolved a lot over the years. And like Trish said, now it is at the point where it seems way more streamlined, and it's so streamlined, in fact, that when Kate left, who was fantastic, we're like, all right, this is in a spot now where we don't even need to hire a full-time special events coordinator at a full-time salary. We can kind of split it out to a couple of employees that are already on the books and just bump them a little bit for the extra work. So I'm honestly super stoked at where it is, because it was a pain in the butt previously. So over the years that we've made those changes, and I was actually going to say the same thing as Trish. Each time we made a major change, we did workshop that. We took it back to the commission and spent some time. I totally respect where you're coming from, Mike, but I think it's worth more of a holistic discussion amongst us than an agenda item. And I think your letter's a good place to start, but there's a few things that I'd like to work on, and I think there's some compromises that can be made. So I follow in Commissioner Hedin's shoes and recommend a workshop at the next commission meeting. Even I think it would probably only take an hour or so, or potentially the first one in February. I don't know. That's up to staff if they have the capacity for that. But yeah.
And Mike, I've got others ahead of you. Let me just finish down and we'll come back to you. But Brian has had his hand up, then Mary,
just
and Melody.
Yeah, just really quickly. You know, one of the things that I do like about this is, and from what I remember as well, is the original intent to apply and putting that in there was to streamline things and make them faster. And so removing that board, right, does make things faster, right? I mean, and we heard we only rejected one event out of all of those events right there. So, you know, I mean, I do like the way that this is looking right here because it makes things faster. I mean, and that should be the purpose. And that was at least that's what I was told was the original purpose of why we were moving for the intent to apply, right? We had the choice, like, are we going to put this in the front to where we're the first face so that the organizers don't have to, you know, go through all these processes to find out that the commission just didn't have an appetite for it. Like I thought that was the original. That was exactly okay, perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure. And so, you know, it feels like yeah, there were other reasons as well, but that was one of the main reasons. And so I do think that what's happening right here in this does seem like it's following that. Now, I think the other thing that might be, you know, something might be the numbers right there. And I think that might be what people are maybe having the biggest time or the hardest time with. So I don't know if we have time tonight, but if it's something simply as what the numbers are, I don't know why we couldn't just go around right now and just discuss what everybody has an appetite for.
Yeah, we'll go on. Mary, you're next, and then Melody, and then we'll come back to Mike.
And you said one of my things. The special events ordinance was very time consuming. We spent many months and workshopping and inviting the public and inviting various people. It didn't happen overnight. And the reason we started it was for, I think, three main reasons was, I don't know, a lot of you that were here will remember there were times that things would get under the radar because we didn't have a good system for people looking at it. I don't know if any of you remember the Memorial Day weekend, when we all of a sudden had like 3 to 4 events on the same weekend. We had the art festival, we had a running race, and then we had this motorcycle rally and the parking lot in City Market was dangerous. I mean, the police were going crazy because, I mean, especially with the bikers that came in town, there was one ticket after another ticket.